Hello and welcome, everybody. We'll give everybody a minute to get in here and then we'll get started. Hope everyone's doing well today. Feel free to say hello in the chat. Let us know where you're dialing in from today. Alrighty, well, I think while people are still getting in there, hello from Texas, hello from San Jose, excellent. We'll get started now, and yeah, we're very excited to have everybody joining us today. We're going to be learning all about the City of Aspen's amazing procurement modernization story. They've been on a fantastic journey over the past couple of years, and I think it's going to be a great session for those who are either on a journey right now or thinking about starting a journey. There'll be a lot of takeaways for everybody here. So without further ado, I'm going to pass it over to our Director of Customer Advocacy, Jeanette Bruno, who will be carrying it on.
Thanks so much, Blake. So hi, everybody. I'm Jeanette Bruno. I'm SOVRA's Director of Advocacy, and we're so excited today to be joined by Asal. Asal, I will let you introduce yourself, and then I think I have maybe one other slide to just kind of go over some context before we jump in. But Asal, please introduce yourself.
Hey, good afternoon, good morning, and good day to everybody. My name is Asal Vojnani. I'm the Procurement Officer for the City of Aspen in Colorado for almost 5 years now.
Awesome. Thank you. So for those of you who are maybe newer to SOVRA or don't quite know about us, I think, Blake, on the next slide, we just have a full sort of screen about everything that we provide. But generally, SOVRA is a full source to contract solution. So we're really focused on touching all elements of the procurement process. And as you'll hear from Asal today, we find that many folks are sort of coming to us with sort of one thing that they're looking to optimize and really growing their experience with us. So I think this is a little bit about everything we offer, but you're going to hear really from Asal more on her journey and Aspen's journey in working with us. So I think, Blake, we can shift over to the next slide. And how this is going to work is I'll go through and I'll ask you questions, and then we'll kind of continue the conversation. I will say, folks, if you have questions or comments or want to flag anything in the chat as we're going, please go ahead and do that, and we'll hopefully have some time at the end to answer questions as well. So Asal, to start, when you stepped into your role, I guess almost about 5 years ago, what did Aspen's procurement process look like?
Yes, just to start, I would say we are a uncentralized procurement layout. So of the 21 departments, we have a bunch of different project managers and buyers that normally will do the predominant purchasing and procurement aspects. So when I came in, there was somebody from legal doing procurement part-time. So there was not quite a very thorough process in place like it used to be, and that was my job to slowly start bringing us all together and ensuring that we're following the same code and the requirements as a city.
Mm-hmm. And how did you kind of like tackle that? Like, will you go into a little bit more detail about sort of like where you started?
Absolutely. So I think at the beginning we were just, going through our code and our procedure manuals, figuring out how does all the departments do their purchasing, what are the limitations, and we worked with spreadsheets, we worked with different templates of contracts that were on some local drives and very different from department to department, the revisions of those or the modifications that were being made that the others didn't know about. So it was very much focused per department rather than an entity together. So my biggest task was to just try to wheel us in so we were doing it together in one smooth process.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm definitely hearing a lot of that, like manual, working on spreadsheets, very sort of, one hand doesn't know what the other hand is doing. So really hearing that, I think that's quite a common theme we hear from folks that definitely makes the process pretty challenging. Awesome. Okay, let's shift to our next question. So on the topic of spreadsheets and sort of the sort of decentralization, can you talk about some of the biggest challenges you faced with spreadsheets and Word forms and decentralized filing?
Absolutely. One of the biggest ones I would say is that there wasn't an overall overview of what was actually being done and by whom, were the contracts, did we have contracts? Were they active? Were they not active? Where were they being filed? The contract templates were stored on departmental folders, which was not very helpful and very stressful when you would see it. If you'd see a contract, you'd be like, wait a minute, this is from 2018. So which template are you using? So it was very much difficult to ensure that we were at least using the same level of foundational documentation. And what would happen with that is that one department might be both purchasing the same thing because one person wasn't talking to the other, or there was a lot of different problems with that, where things were being stored. Sometimes people didn't know where they can find documents and they would, try to find their own means around it. So just bringing a localized system in place was very, very important for us.
Yeah, I'm hearing a lot in there around like visibility and transparency and making sure you can really optimize and sort of understand what's happening and where you might want to collaborate differently, and can kind of definitely
Absolutely.
feel how it's hard to do that when things are saved in all different sorts of places. Definitely.
Yeah, it was hard during auditings. It's hard during reporting when you're trying to get some data pulled together, and it was very difficult. I couldn't really provide the most accurate data that I wish I could. So optimization was very important.
I really, yeah, I hear that a lot. All right. So on that note, you said optimization was really important. It was something top of mind. So when you decided to go on this journey of modernization, what were some of the factors that mattered most to you in your decision?
Absolutely. So I think for us, anytime you're bringing change to an organization, especially when people are used to doing a certain way, there's a lot of push and pull and time needed for that. When we were looking as an organization, we have to go and solicit different things, but we wanted to make sure our needs were going to be met more than us having to be flexible or changing our processes to fit in a different type of layout. Once we had established a layout and a process that worked for us, and we had everybody on board, the last thing I was trying to do is throw that down out the window and then say, okay, now that you have that, let's try something different. The biggest one was that it was going to be comfortable and recognizable for the staff members, since we have so many people with their link to the procurement process. It was very important that we don't change things too much, and it was going to be very easy, accessible, and user-friendly. It was very important to us.
Yeah, I think this resonates with me a lot as a change management professional. I think particularly because you did a lot of work to get people aligned and to kind of do that process optimization for you all. So I'm really hearing that like you didn't want to take something in a different direction or ask people to continue to change. That's really about making sure whatever solution you went with was going to be was going to build off the work that you had already done in your optimization. Does that feel right?
Absolutely, absolutely.
Awesome. Cool. I love it. I love it. Let's dig a little bit deeper. So, kind of talk to us a little bit about like how you started this process. You decided on modernization. You decided on the factors that were really important. Talk about kind of how the process started for you and why focusing on contracting first was important, and what did that unlock for you and your team?
Absolutely. So we first tried to see of the different type of tools that we were already utilizing, like SOVRA with the solicitation part and other financial platforms. We wanted to try to see if there was going to be one that was going to work for us. First of all, not reinventing the wheel of, hey, what other tools did you have? When we were deciding on the different ways we can do it, what was very important for us is this version gave us the opportunity through the modularization to be able to say, okay, we love everything. However, we're not going to start with everything. this will keep as is, this we would really like to improve. And contracting became basically the most important for us, because there wasn't a forward-facing process where everybody was able to see the status of what was going on at any time, during the 2-3 step phase of from when you're submitting a request of this is what I need, to getting that approved with your documentation, to moving on to the contracting side. So contracting was our biggest push, to start with, because I think everybody wanted to have at least that system be set in stone, and no surprises and no deviations from different departments and different templates and different setups.
Yeah, I hear that. So it sounds like that kind of focus again on that visibility, that transparency, that standardization was like really what made sense for you all from a starting point to focus in on contracting.
Absolutely.
Got it. And I just want to touch on kind of one other thing you mentioned, because I feel like it's something that we've certainly heard from other customers. I think our friends at Fulton County mentioned it too, but the idea of like, we love everything, but we're not ready for everything. Can you talk a little bit about just like what that conversation was like internally for you all, especially as you were building up, sort of the case to get things like funding and to get people on board with this, like kind of talk a little bit about how that ability to build from where you've been and where you want to go had played out in your organization.
Absolutely. I think since we had such a low hanging fruit already, we had a process in place, yet it wasn't quite right. It wasn't moving as fast as we wanted. And so that helped us. That helped us with slowly initiating it. We spoke to different departments of, hey, how is the procurement process working with you? How is it working against you? What are your bottlenecks that are either delaying your projects or causing unnecessary friction even between the vendors and ourselves? So it was very important to talk to the staff that were using contracting on a regular, if not a daily basis, and really understanding from them where they would like to see the change and trying to align it with what we really thought was important from a finance and procurement standpoint. So we kind of got the bullet points of what was important and brought that to our search when we went out for quotes and trying to find a perfect match for us.
Awesome. I love it. And again, I feel like I have to say kudos because I like as a change management person here, I really quite love like hearing about like doing that deep work of understanding the pain points, what could be better, asking for that feedback. I think oftentimes the labor that you put there returns so much in investment when you kind of come to making these bigger decisions about what system is going to make sense for you and your organization and your process. So that's awesome. I'd love to hear it. Cool. Well, let's move into our next question. So I think we've touched on this a little bit, but I want to dig in a little bit more. What role did customization play in choosing SOVRA, and why was that so critical for the city of Aspen?
I think us as a small city, even though we're very small and limited in resources when it comes to vendor pools and what have you not, like I said, we've put together a system that works for us. And it might not work for bigger entities and it might not work for other more centralized. It was working best for us. And instead of trying to fit in with the masses, we just wanted to make sure that it was working the way we wanted. And what SOVRA provided for us, besides the modular setup of, well, you don't have to buy all of these things. You can decide which ones fits first. And we even have a forecast planned of the next phase and the next phase moving forward. And being able to say, okay, these are the things we do. These are our processes. What we would like is tell us if we can work together. Is this a good match? It's kind of like a matchmaking of, well, these are my boundaries, my requirements, and these are yours. Can we work together? Can we have a strong relationship? And it was very, very evident from the beginning that you're very customer service orientated. So if I said, this is how we do it, we would like to keep that format, keep that process, you and your team were very, very creative and reassuring that it was doable. And if there were any limitations, we got very creative because that customization provides all this extra space for creativity to find a solution that does fit. So it was a very easy choice to make after that.
I love to hear it. I love to hear it. I think, again, as a former government human myself, we certainly care so much about centering your experience as our customers. And so I'm glad that that was your experience. But I also love this idea that customization can allow for like that creative problem solving or that creativity of like, how might we get this with what we have, with how it works, with how we want to work. So I love to hear about that. That's awesome, Asal. Awesome. So next slide, and I think we've sort of teased this in a couple of places, but were there any strategies that you personally use to kind of help reduce resistance to change, or maybe conversely get that quick buy-in from staff across your organization, from your leadership, even I would say even, from vendors potentially too, but really curious to kind of hear what worked for you all in Aspen.
So when we kind of started initiating the process of moving forward in this modern platform, what really worked for us is that we were already using SOVRA for the solicitation part. So it wasn't a unknown name, unknown entity to the team and the city as general for the vendors. They all have the set processes for that. So it was one way and a recognizable name, and that helped. When it came to setting it up, we would invite project managers, we would invite some of our local vendors that we have really great relationships with to come and see what we were working on and test things out way before we launched it to ensure that it was user friendly from both sides. If it was providing the data that our management team would require from us, if they now want to know, hi, Asal, how many projects do we have, or how many purchases do we have over an X amount of this and that, and it's purple and it's blue, I can provide that without stressing of having to look for a million things. So it was very easy for us to be able to bite-size chew it ahead of time by showing it's known, it's improving the system. We've tested it out with project managers and department managers, and even showing the processes through the biggest phases with our leadership. They were very much on board quickly with that and excited, predominantly excited of when are we doing it, which was really nice to see.
Yeah, I think that's often, usually people are not very excited for change. So it's really nice to kind of hear about the way that you intentionally engaged various stakeholders in this process to kind of step into that change and build up on that excitement. That's awesome. All right. So looking back, what parts of your rollout with SOVRA kind of surprised you? Either they were unexpectedly challenging, or you had these unexpected wins. But like, sort of, what was the most surprising to you as you think about your journey with us?
I think once we had put together the process and we had built the platform, just seeing the ease of the flow was just like, wait, there's got to be more. Where's the catch? You're just waiting for the other shoe to fall. Like, was it that easy? And even when we were doing our trainings with our staff and with our new staff members that will come anywhere throughout the year, they're like, oh, is that it? Oh, that's it. And I'm like, yeah, that's it. And they're like, oh. So it's really awesome to see that it was hard for us to try to think for everybody in advance of how are they going to be using it, how are they going to be looking at it. But when we actually see it in use by the stakeholders, you're like, it's predominantly 99.9% positive because it has made their life easier. They can keep a track of things, and they've never had that before. So that was one of definitely the wins that we were hoping to have, and it was very easily measurable from the get-go, let alone sometimes you have to wait a year to see some things really flourish. And in this case, they were really already very visible. When it comes to a little bit more of the challenges is now that you use it more often, you're realizing, I wonder if there's a solution for this, or how could we do this better? And those are things that we're working on now when we start looking at the different modules that we might want to be venturing into, is how are we going to solve this challenge with that module, or how are we going to fix that? There's always a chance for a couple of hiccups when you're using this, but the team had been really great with getting back to us and thinking with us and really expediting those bottlenecks. But I think what was most important is the users were not fully aware of our hiccups in the background. So it was very much in the back office of, oh, this error is coming here. But whoever submitted that or whoever's working on that contract had no problem with it. They didn't even know, which was really nice that it wasn't stopping midstream of what was going on to have to fix something. And okay, guys, sorry, we'll be back. Stay tuned. We're working on that.
Yep. Man, have I, and I feel like procurement often sometimes gets to like, oh man, you guys. So it's nice to hear that, like, there's not really, even though you may be triaging something or sort of working through something in the back office, that's not really showing for your internal customers, and they can still complete what they need to complete. So getting through challenges is, something to work on, but something that's not visible in the ways that you don't want it to be as visible to people. I wanted to dial in a little bit more when you said that it was very easy to kind of see those quick tangible wins and people talking about their experience and sort of seeing how it was beneficial to them. Are there other kind of goals that you had at the start of your modernization that you really wanted to see that you ended up seeing over the course of your rollout?
I think once you start using it the way it was intended, the way we wanted it to be from the beginning, and just seeing the numbers and the data flowing in, I think that was something that we really were happy with. We were able to pull out reports. We can expedite things. We get notifications on so many things that I haven't even tapped into yet, because I'm like, let me just get you through this. But there is so much still left to be untapped of what we've already started. That is really awesome. One of the examples I can give you now is, in the past, we didn't know where all the contracts were in general. So now we have a localized contract pool, but also there was a very hard time keeping a track of expirations of when are these contracts actually expired. How are we notifying the project managers, the buyers, or the vendors, or the team of, hey, you're hitting the end of this. Is this good? Do you need a renew, or what have you not? And that was one of our biggest struggles throughout the years that we were working. Then that wasn't working for us. And now not only can we keep a track of that, but there's so many other tools that we haven't tapped into. We can notify vendors, we can notify project managers, we can put it ahead is 90 days, 6 months in advance, you name it. And there's just so much still that we can do that I can't wait to tap into.
Yeah.
I hope that answers the question.
No, that's great. This is great. I know I'm like going a little off book here. Let's move to our next question. But no, that's great. I think you've started to touch on this a little bit, I think, in that previous example and then some of our other questions. But I feel like you've brought up data, you've brought up reporting. We definitely talked about kind of the challenges with visibility and transparency and just like the amount of time it would take to pull this together. Can you talk a little bit more, maybe share an example of how your capabilities have improved now that you've come into the SOVRA ecosystem?
100%. There will be times when we're working with larger capital projects, or even when we were increasing our thresholds for approvals processes, from council approval to what have you not, that simple data reporting would have been very useful when I'm trying to justify in the last 4 years, how many projects did I have under this threshold, or how many did I do this, or how many were that. It was a very difficult data to pull together because we didn't have it anywhere. And like I said, with this, we can say per department, the Parks Department has done this much million this year, this many projects of this different types from professional services to materials. We can see expenditures of what was supposed to be spent versus what ended up being spent on these contracts, and if they stayed in budget or they didn't stay in budget. So there's a lot of extra reporting that came because we have that data now, and it's just so easy. You guys have a lot of preset report options that we can just piggyback off of. And if I needed a specific one of, hey, I'm sitting on a bunch of contracts that need to be signed, then, my colleague can send a report out saying, Asal, get to it. Here it is. I have the data for you. So there's a lot of different ways that the reporting has been very helpful.
Awesome. I love to hear it. I think the data is often this like big bear of a thing in government, and it's so hard to like get it right, get it clean, get it centralized, get it in the same place, get everyone to buy into it. And so it's really good to hear about how this is kind of improved not just the level and depth of your visibility, but also sort of like, hey, like I can very quickly generate this and send it to someone and that can come with an action. That's awesome. Cool. So next question, and again, you sort of talked a little bit about how you engage both staff and vendors, but vendor collaboration was part of your testing phase. And so I'm really curious to learn a little bit more about how vendor engagement has evolved for you all since you launched.
100%. So when we, in our old process, what we would do is we would send our set template per email to a vendor, and they might come back with red marks, or sometimes they scratch it out in PDF and send it back, and you're like, what's going on? So the contract module really provided this awesome tool for collaborations. And with that, when we bookmark our contract templates, when we fill everything out, we can invite multiple people to come at the same time, so the vendor can come and review the contract, make any edits, remarks, comments, concerns, questions in it. I can invite my legal department real time, either at the same moment or afterwards, to review those, provide their feedback, and they're all involved in this process, which was really, really something that we hadn't had before, which is silly to think of now because I don't know how it would work without it. But it was really awesome, and being able to provide a platform where everybody is looking at one document instead of 3 emails. Is this revision 4? Is this revision 5? Oh wait, that edit. And the track and traceability of that was really refreshing, and they appreciate it too.
Yeah, I think the ease of collaboration, and to your point, like not having to dig through the emails and deal with the version control, like I think sometimes you can't overstate just how much some of those, they feel like small improvements, or they feel like not major innovations, but like the amount of time it saves in the process is really quite huge.
Absolutely. Sometimes if I look back in the older folders and you look at the reports, and it's like report revision 1, final 1, final 3, final, and then all of a sudden there's a date to it, and you're like, this is not working. Final with edits, legal, and it's been great, and it's you don't know how important it is till sometimes when conversations get muddy, or time is really needs you to expedite something like being able to send everybody the same thing can save so much time as well.
No, I think that's totally valid. So let's dig a little bit more into kind of the lessons that you learned through this process, particularly in the concept of starting small, focusing on
Yes.
contracting, and then kind of growing into other spaces.
100%. So the whole modular setup of this was helpful, that we can just really focus on where our biggest pinpoint and our problem was, and ensure that at least once we get that rolled in a process that works and everybody's comfortable, then we could slowly cascade into the next ones. And the lessons learned about this was, we started small, which sometimes might seem like, you're not moving fast enough because you're trying to just bring something new and hear everything new and improved. It's like, but sometimes you just, before going and getting yourself overwhelmed with everything that might come to it, if you really focus on fine tuning one process first and ensuring that that works and it's just, the transition is working, the report, the data, the process is working perfectly, then you could focus on the other thing. And we were just worried that if we would get into too many things at the same time, we would do ourselves short of the quality of what we were trying to maintain, but definitely enhance as well. So that was our choice of the reasoning to start small, but really, really foundationally solid to then build up from.
Yeah, I think I really can't emphasize enough that I think that strategy of sort of starting small and a little slow to go faster and bigger later, like that concept, it's very
100%.
agile, it's very incremental, sort of this concept of piloting or trying it out or trying to get one thing and get it really right, figure out what your process is going to be the next time and the next time is so important.
Because, yeah, it can get very overwhelming, especially if you're not very tech savvy and you don't understand the process to implementation and even, before that. So when you first start and you hear all these words, you're like, what? And it can become very overwhelming really fast. So it was helpful to just gradually get in there and ease through the process. And now it's more comfortable, and I think in that way the team can also provide better feedback because now they understand this section of what's important for Aspen. So when I would go to the next module, they're like, oh yeah, because of and you do it, and there's a little bit of a trail to follow now. Before we were just clearing it out.
Yep. It's sort of like a little, you're building your storyboard, you're, laying the breadcrumbs, and people are sort of seeing these things come together. I love
Yes.
to hear it. Awesome. So for the other procurement leaders who are listening and watching this webinar today, what advice would you give to them about building a really strong foundation before you scale modernization?
Absolutely. I think really focusing on what your needs are and prioritizing what's the most important and really focusing on those before you go into the nitty-gritty of the nice to have. So really is a good place to start. Really take your time to talk about what's missing and don't get overwhelmed when it comes to this. What we did is we provided a lot of details to SOVRA of this is our process. This is where the hiccups and the bottlenecks are. This is where it gets kind of really, really messy. We have a set process. We have templates. Yay! We have this, but all of this area is this is the problem, and this is what we would like to see. So really having that open, candid conversations and working together would be something that I definitely taking your time was one that we noticed that's really helped us. So we would build something and they're like, okay, you ready to launch? I'm like, no, wait, we're going to test it some more. No, we're going to test it some more. I'm going to invite more people. I'm going to invite more vendors. I'm going to invite other people from different levels of the procurement world to look at this. So start small, but definitely have a plan for the future is really important because you don't want to get stagnant in only this. There's a lot of new opportunities out there, and we might not be jumping in as fast as others. It has to make sense for your departments, for your staff, for your needs, and not the other way around.
I think that's so important. I've done IT modernization work for better part of a decade at this point, and I think it's so important that like your starting point is what you need, not trying to make something fit in, like not flipping that script. Like whether the problems should be solved, what will it look like to solve them, and how will we grow in that, I think is so important.
Yeah, absolutely. And indeed, I saw that Vicky asked that question. We did start with the CLM part, but we were already using the solicitation platform. So we already were familiar with that section of it. In the future, we would like to look back into, building out the the request for proposals more on that platform, looking at the evaluation module is just gets me all excited. I'm really looking forward to being able to bring that modernization because again, that's still kind of in the old school ways of here's an Excel list and do this and do that and send it back and we're compiling it together. So we wanted to start slow, get everybody at least used to the processes that they work with every day, because not everybody that creates a contract or a request is somebody that's going to be a part of an evaluation team, for example. So that's why we started first with contracting, because we thought we were going to get the biggest amount of staff on board the fastest. And then when you look into the other modules, you can wheel them in because they already have the basics down.
That's great. And I think that's a great segue to what I think is our last formal question today. So you sort
Yes.
of teased this a little bit. Biddy, I heard Biddy Val in there, like looking ahead, what are you excited about? Where are you going next?
Yes, so we definitely want to keep improving our processes and definitely bringing them forward facing. So the next process is that we're diving into. We've already had a couple meetings with the SOVRA team with regards to the evaluation module, looking into in the future in my multi-year plan. I'm really interested in that vendor satisfaction side of it, because although we work interdepartmentally, sometimes we work with the same vendors, but they all have different experiences with them. And it would be really nice to have a platform where you can really put things together of how they did, why they did it. So those are the other modules that we're very excited about. And I know that SOVRA is working on a lot of other stuff that we're happy to hear. And I'll let you guys talk about that. But there's a lot of things that are still being worked out and thought of. And I think that's the exciting part about it is besides these modules, they're already paving a way of other things linked with AIs or what have you that we're like, yes, yes. Let me know when that's ready. Let's talk.
Love it. I love it. Blake, I think we might have one or two questions in the Q&A. Do you see those?
Correct, we do, yes. So the first one, how many client departments does the City of Aspen have, and how many procurement dedicated staff are there?
So we have about over 21 different departments in the city together. And from that, it varies very, very much between the departments. Oh, sorry, about 30 departments to be exact. Some work together. So the main staff that is doing the procurement is about the same. But I would say we have a little over 400 full-time employees, and in one way or the other, at least 100 of them are working through procurement. One way, if it's in the financing side or the contracting or the project management side, I say about 100, 150.
Excellent. And then there was another question about, because I think you were mentioning about the commenting and collaboration aspect in the CLM. If there is ability for internal comments to not be viewable by the vendor.
So what we normally do, I don't know if there was a way, I'm not that tech savvy, it probably was, but what we normally do is we first either send it to the vendor only, because that's in the collaboration section, you can have multiple times you send a notification to be reviewed. So I might first draft a contract, send it to my project manager, like, hey, did I miss anything? Does it look good? And they say yes. Then I'll send it to the vendor and say, this is it. Please let me know if you have any edits or any comments, put it in there. And when they're finished, then I might send it to my legal team, have them do it if I choose that process. And I think it also very much depends on some of our vendors we know very well. So we know if there's going to be comments or not. If they're newer vendors, we might take that approach of step by step by step, while other ones, we just throw them all in one pool. So it's very much different between the type. If it's a new vendor, a little bit more thorough type of contract, we might split it between the parties. And you can create new collabs. You can always look back at what was done before when you save a new version of it in the system, which is really cool.
Excellent. think that's all the questions. So Jeanette, is there anything else on your end?
I don't think so. I would say maybe the last call for questions. I think we have just a sort of last slide, but before we maybe get there, if there's no other questions, just to Saul, anything that you would maybe want to say in closing or to bring it all home?
I think definitely thanks to the team that helped us build our beautiful platform. They were so amazing and resourceful, and they thought with us, and I want to give them kudos for all the hard work that they did to bring it together, because it's all them really pushing it every time to get it to the, I mean, every time I open my CLM platform, I just have a smile on my face. It just looks so awesome and it's perfect for what we need, and they did an amazing job.
That's awesome. We love to hear it. We love to hear it, and we will be certain to pass that kudos down. So a couple of other last slides for folks. Again, we do have another 4 minutes. If you have a last question, feel free to throw that in there. But did want to put a plug for our next webinar, which is going to be around future of government, future of operations. This is going to be a really cool panel discussion. We're going to have leaders and representatives from local, state, and federal government. And we're going to talk about a lot of these bigger trends that I think are procurement and procurement adjacent, but really are going to impact sort of the future of public procurement. So everything from modernization to workforce, AI and emerging tech. So if you're interested, you should be able to scan this QR code and register for that webinar. I think it's happening November 20th, so we've still got some time, but feel free to share that. We're really excited for that conversation. And then Blake, I think, is this our last one, or do we have
That's it.
some more? All
I
right.
also put the link in the chat. So
Oh,
people can-
perfect.
So
Thank you
I was
so
going to mention,
Yeah.
if anybody on the call is curious of how and what, I've been approached to show our platform. So anybody that would like to reach out and see the way we set it up, to get some ideas, is always free to contact us, and we'd love to show how far we've gotten so far.
Awesome. Thank you, Asal.
Amazing.
Really, really appreciate your time today and you sharing more of Aspen's journey and where you've been and where you're headed and what's been great for you. So thank you so very much. And thank you to everyone who joined us today. We hope you found this helpful. Take Asal up on her offer to connect. I always think it's so great. And stay tuned for more of these webinar series to learn from your peers, as well as our future webinars. Thank you all so much. We really appreciate it. And I hope everyone has a great rest of your day.
Awesome. Thank you, guys.
Thanks.
Yeah.